Who do I have in front of me at all?
Patricia Nugent.
And Patricia, where were you born and reared?
I was born and reared in Arklow, just up the road.
And you worked here in the pottery.
I did.
When did you start working here?
1972 I started.
And how old were you?
I was 16. 16.
And when did you finish up?
I finished up in 89 when it shut down. 89 or 9, yeah, 89. When it shut, and I would probably still be here if it was open. Yeah.
So a 16-year-old young one.
Yeah. And let me tell you, 16-year-olds were more naive back then than they are now.
And why did you start working here?
Well, my friends worked here, some of them were maybe a year older than me, and it was the thing everybody done. Everybody went to the pottery, and loved it.
And did your mother or father or sisters work here at all?
My sister did. She's 3 years older than I am, and she was here. And my cousin John, who lived with us, he was here. My mother was here as well. She was over the wage office, and sure, where else was I going to go? So yeah. My father was a barber, so he wasn't here at all.
So at the age of 16, you came down here.
Yeah.
And were you coming straight from school, or were you out of school for a year or a bit?
No, I'd finished school at 14, and I worked for Imco Dry Cleaners for a while, all right, and then I wanted to come here because that's where everybody else was, friends, etc. You know. But yeah, and I loved it, really loved it. We all gave out about it, but we all loved it. Yeah.
And can you remember your first day here?
I can even remember the interview. Nervous as hell. Fred Kay was the personnel manager, and he interviewed me, and he knew my family from them working here. So, yeah, they hired me, and I was green actually coming in. I absolutely knew nothing about what I was going to do, but my sister was into decorating, and my mother originally, when she started, would have been there as well as a liner, and I tried the decorating and liked it, took to it. So yeah, and I was a lithographer for years, and then a position came up in what we call the print room, and I said I'd have a go at that. My sister used to do it as well, and worked in there then for some years, and then I wanted to go back out to work with the girls in the lithographing, so I went back doing that, and I did quite a few jobs. If the checker wasn't in, I would take over her job and do that for her. Just getting people's work schedules, what they did, and they'd write down what it was, and I'd put it in their time cards, etc. And then if the forewoman was out ill, I'd stand in for her. So it wasn't boring. And then at night, when people used to try to save for foreign holidays, I think 79 was our first one, and I was allowed to do overtime, but there was plenty of overtime, and I'd do it in the evenings or on Saturday mornings, and it could be either the packing yard, the glass warehouse, it could be lithographing. It didn't matter, you know. I had to go with them all. Yeah, yeah.
just to get a few bob to go to.
To get a few bob for saving up for holidays, and they saved it for you, so you didn't have to worry about putting it in anywhere. And then you put in your name to collect it if you were paying for your holiday, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So you could be working for a couple of months, would you, before you'd clock in the few bob?
Oh God, you would. Ah, yeah, yeah. But it was there to do, you know. It was available, so it was lovely.
And did you do that often?
Oh yeah. Every year overtime was always there, you know, until near the end. So it was handy. Yeah.
So here you were, 16-year-old young girl, coming in here. Can you remember your first day even?
I can. I remember Nancy Kenny was our forewoman. But she was always called Mrs. Kenny. No, nobody called her Nancy. And she sat me down at a bench and showed me what to do, and come back and check on me every now and again and check what I'd done, that kind of thing. And I was pleased as punch that evening going home, you know, pleased as anything. But yeah, I loved it, yeah.
And was it mostly girls or women in that department?
It mostly was, yes. There were a few men there, all right, but they were bringing in the ware and trolleys and that. And the kiln, both kilns were near us, so they were worked by men. And of course our foreman was John Barnes, he was there too.
Can you remember any names of the women you worked with?
Oh God, yes, yeah. Breda Turl. And the way it was situated, the conveyor belt was there in the middle. This side and that side, we'll say the right hand side, everybody was faced this way. And on the left hand side, we were all faced up the other way. So you always had somebody you're looking at each other face to face, and you could talk away while you were working, you know. And later on then, the radios came in. And well, other departments had them before us, but our our foreman, John, he didn't like the music. So we were told we had to wear earphones. But that was fine. But the strange thing about it was, everybody was tuned into Jerry Ryan, and something funny would happen, and all of a sudden, anybody walking through the department, everybody would be roaring, laughing, and nobody knew why, you know. It was amazing when you think back on it, you know. Funny. But yeah, or singing along, whatever, you know, and people probably thought we were mad. But yeah, that was our department. We had to have headphones.
So what year are we talking about when you were wearing headphones?
Oh, probably the 80s, I'd say. Yeah, we didn't have radios up to that, you know. In our department, anyhow.
And then you got the radio.
Then we got the radios, yeah, yeah. And obviously a few would be on a different station, so the headphones actually worked in that respect, because you weren't trying to listen over everybody else, you know.
And you mentioned Jerry Ryan there.
Jerry, yeah. Well, we all got a kick out of Jerry, especially when he had the Irish submarine, the Nave Brand on. And some of them believed it, you know, that that was the strange thing. But he was very funny, yeah.
So how many were on the floor in that department?
When I started, and for a long time, the conveyor belts came, there was one, two, about 5 conveyor belts, and they all in the one direction. And then I can't remember what year but it was changed to just one very long conveyor belt. But we still all sat facing each other, so you know it was handy. It's just that there was just the one, and well, the liners had a different one, obviously.
And the liners were the people who would draw the gold lines,
Yes,
is that it?
that's right. Yeah,
And you were sticking on the transfer.
we put the transfers on. Yeah, and if it was glossed that we were doing, it would be cranked and put over for them to do. But if it was biscuit, obviously it went through the kiln first and then back to them, you know. But yeah, there's quite a few in it when I think of it. Quite a few, yeah.
And how were you paid? Were you paid by piece or by wage?
By piece. You know, you had so many minutes to do a dozen, and you work your way up to trying to be quicker, obviously, you know, to earn more. Some were easy to do and some weren't, you know. And time and motion, if it was a new pattern coming out, time and motion would come up and do a study on a few people, not just one, obviously to get the average.
And who were time and motion?
Tomas Halpin, God rest him, yeah. David Shelton, Paddy Nolan, Luke Byrne, and then their boss was Mr. O'Sullivan. And his first name just won't come to me now. He was a lovely man too. Yeah.
And they would come up just to, oh, would you like seeing them?
Well, you didn't particularly, because you kind of, everybody's thought was, they won't give us enough for these. You know, that was the usual. But you didn't mind doing it, but we all complained about what time we were given for them, you know. That was natural. But yeah.
So how many dozen would you do in a day? Or would it depend?
It would depend on the time that was on them. But I don't know, say, if they weren't too hard to do, you probably had maybe 15 minutes a dozen. So and you try to do it in less, obviously, to you know. And actually, now that I think of it, when it was brought to us by one of the guys on a trolley and let down beside you, and you picked it up, but you picked it up by the dozens if you could, to save time, you know. You could 2 dozen dinner plates, or, you know, I wouldn't do it now. But, you know, and you put it on your bench, and depending on curvature and stuff on the ware and the pattern, you may have had to heat them. And the only way in the beginning that we had was boiling water. And later on, we got what we call hot boxes. They were wooden boxes made up for us with 2 pieces of like flannel kind of stuff on the front of it with an opening, and we had a heater, a fan heater at the back of it. There was a slit for that and that heated the ware, you know, rather than having these basins of boiling water going back and forth, which was dangerous. But yeah, that we'd heat them with that.
When did you get that system?
Oh gosh, I can't remember. Possibly when the conveyor belt was moved to just the one big one. I think it might have been around that time.
And they'd be going all day, the heat would be coming all day, would it?
Yeah, it's well depending, and some patterns didn't warrant it, you know. If they were tricky, you'd have to heat them to manipulate the transfers, you know.
And can you visualise any of the patterns still?
God, yeah. Some of them were very hard, but some were, not so bad. When we started and we were young, and the more advanced in the work people, they would have done what we called the goods. They were on the good stuff. We weren't allowed to do that, So we would have started with the likes of cottage and the rose and playtime and things like that, And then you work your way up to doing the harder stuff,
Was there any spongeware at all?
There would have been, but not in our department. It was separated, so we didn't get to see that,
And the transfers came cut out?
They came on sheets, and there'd be so many on a sheet. Depending on what it was, we could put them in the little thing we had for the transfers. There was like a little trough at the back of it, and we'd wet them in that and then slide them up onto it was a tin kind of a tray, and work that way, slide them off that way. And some of them could have been much bigger sheets, but then we'd cut them down, to suit us for dipping them in the water, And obviously we would, depending on what it was, how long it could take you, would be, if the easier the pattern was, the more you could wet, because it wouldn't dry out as quick. You could work that way. Yeah, and then onto the conveyor belt.
Did you have to rub them off with a sponge, or did it just peel off?
No, they just peeled off. Yeah.
Do you remember, were there any of the older people who worked there prior to you starting that remembered a different system? Was there a different system where they'd have to rub them off with water?
Breda would have Breda Turl would have seen all those all right now, because Breda had come back. She had got out of it for a good while. I'm trying to think. I think Breda worked in decorating all the time, and she would have seen some changes all right, obviously. But there wasn't that much change, apart from going on to biscuit. We hadn't done any of that before. That was new to us. I think they did have a machine that stamped patterns on as well, but that we weren't near that. That wasn't in ours.
And were you sticking on the Made in Arklow signs in the back?
Yes, the back stamp. Yeah. The different types for different types of wear. Certain ones had their own back stamp. And I can't think when it came in, but to kind of find out, we'll say, if something went wrong, whose it was. So we were given a letter of the alphabet to put on underneath the stamp, so that they knew who had done them,
So you all had your own little individual...
Yes, letter.
What was yours?
I'm trying to think last night about that, and I'm not sure if it was A or C, or I honestly can't remember. I'd have to look it up.
But if you saw some plates in front of you and the backs had the little, you could spot that A or that C, could you? Still to this day?
Well, depending. I mean, not all of it. It was only brought in at a certain time, but where before that wouldn't have had it on it. But I can actually sometimes, because there were certain things that I did that nobody else was doing, so you knew it was yours one way or the other. If you seen it in a shop, you could say, I did that.
And do you have any bits and pieces at home that you did?
I have a couple of bits that, well, we were allowed to do when it was going to close, when we knew it was closing. and we were able to put whatever we wanted on them, and they fired them for us, you know, just a couple of bits. But yeah, even when I walk by the charity shops, I always look in the window to see is there anything in there, you know, and there usually is. And I was just thinking, you know, I have a dinner set and a tea set. Summer Estate was the pattern, and every time I use it, I think, you know, think of it. But yeah, and when I started as well, for a few years after, there was, you know, novelty, like ashtrays and stuff like that, you know. So you'd still see those around. You see them for sale or that on Facebook, you know.
And what were you making mostly? Was it mostly ware, or was there novelty stuff as well?
Little. In the beginning, there was quite a lot of novelty, but it mostly ran into just doing tableware and that, you know. It was mostly tableware, dinner sets, tea sets, you know. And now there was also a china decorating when I started, but that phased out eventually. Well, then of course Narataki came along and they did the china, but ours faded out, and I can't remember exactly when. But we didn't work in that end of it. We were at the normal, ordinary decorating. But it was mostly tableware we did. Yeah. Dozens upon dozens.
And did you notice, were there times when you'd drop into fifth gear and produce more to pay for maybe a holiday, or to get something done in the house, or something coming up at home?
Well, you mostly worked as much as you could do. You produce as much as you can, you know, and then I did the overtime to save up for holidays and stuff, you know. But the wages weren't that bad, really, you know, even though we complained. They weren't that bad, really. We were better than a lot, you know.
When you think back, you were 16 years of age. What did you do with the money when you got it?
Well, of course, you handed up your money at home, and I suppose at that age we were out buying clothes and, you know, stuff like that.
The town must have been thriving, was it?
It was, yeah, it was buzzing. Yeah, it's a shame that it went, and Narataki as well, you know. I mean, between the two factories, there was a lot of people going up that road, you know.
And come a Friday or Saturday night, 16-year-old young one like yourself, did you just go out to the pubs or
No,
discos? Or
no. We might get an old disco in, all right, but we would have been afraid to go in at that age, you know. You wouldn't be served. But mostly the pictures and stuff like that, that's what we, you know, what we did. But it's a totally different age group now, you know. That age group are totally more advanced, you know.
And would even girls have been going to the pubs at that time, and even when you turned 18, 19, 20, would you have been going to pubs anyway?
We went to the pubs before the dance or whatever, you know, over to the centre, mostly.
What was the centre?
It's where the swimming pool is now, and show bands. That's what it would have been. Brendan Boyer and Joe Dolan, that kind of thing. You know, but we loved it. We loved it.
And there was a social club right behind you as well here?
Yes. We didn't. It wasn't used that much in my time. Maybe before that, but we did have a few discos there, but there wouldn't have been that many at it, let's say. But we went to a lot of quizzes in it as well. We used to like them, you know, and it was good fun, yeah.
And your mother was working here as well, wasn't she?
My mother started here, obviously, as a young woman, and I think she was into decorating as well, and got married. I presume, I can't even remember, I presume she left then to look after us, but my dad died 4 months after I was born. So she came back, and I'm guessing in the decorating, but eventually she ended up in the wage office and she ran it. So
What
she
was
had a
her?
good head.
What was her name?
Martha Kavanagh before she married. And then my dad, he was Paddy Kelly, the barber.
And did he leave much or many of you?
There was two, just me and my sister. Yeah. So it was short-lived with them, yeah.
So she had no other option but go to work.
Yeah, that's the way it was, yeah. And we moved back in with my grandfather, and he was always there for us then while if she was working, you know, which is great. And my cousin John, of course. Yeah.
It gave women a lot of chances that they mightn't have had before.
Yes, it did, yeah. I mean, they employed so many people, it's unbelievable, you know. I mean, in the mornings it was a sight to behold. Yeah, well, everybody walked to work or cycled, I suppose. And then you also had what was called the Gorey lorry, the pottery lorry. And they brought people from Gorey and that area, you know. And it was like an army lorry for all the world, with the green canvas over the top and an opening at the back and benches for them, you know. It was a sight to behold. And then obviously years on, the buses would collect them, you know. Gosh, there was 3 or 4 buses used to deliver people here in the mornings, yeah.
Was there any rivalry between the Wexford ones and the Arklow ones?
Not that I ever noticed now, no. I think they all got on and all became friends, of course, you know, if you were working together, you know. No, don't, because we had quite a few Gorey girls now in the decorating as well. We all got on, and we'd meet, you know, we'd, excuse me, we'd meet up, you know, have a drink or whatever.
Were there many marriages made in the pottery?
There would have been quite a few, yeah. There would have been quite a few. But I didn't meet my husband here now, or my sister didn't either, but a lot did. A lot did.
So you came in and you moved around different departments whenever you needed to pick up the slack. And you came back to decorating the department then until 1980, until it closed.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mostly doing the other departments would have been overtime in the evenings or Saturday morning. But if, we'll say the forewoman was out or the girl in the office, the checker, I'd step in.
And the checker, that job was to check what the other people have done, was it?
Yeah, the amount they've done and their clock cards and stuff, you know, to do up their weekly wage and that. At that stage, I wasn't on the scheme, we'll say. I wasn't on under a time limit. I was doing stuff that I could take my time at. I could have been repairing or, you know, whatever, in lithographing obviously, but or plaques or doing something that wouldn't be the norm. So I wasn't on a time limit, so they could spare me then to go and do something else. You were on a set wage.
When you mention repairs, what would that be?
If something came out and a piece didn't take on a pattern, if it was possible to repair it and refire it, that's what I'd do.
You know, were there many seconds at all?
There would have been. I didn't have much to do with that. That would have been the glass warehouse, and they would check, and separate them, categorize them, into first, seconds.
Where did the seconds end up?
People would have bought them. It didn't mean that they were, damaged or anything. It would have been maybe a transfer was slightly askew, or that kind of thing, or the line might be too thick, or kind of thing. It wouldn't be a fault in the actual ware itself. So they'd go to the shop, or people would buy them themselves.
When you mean the shop, was there a shop here on site selling stuff?
There was a shop, yes, just down here behind me, and it beautiful stuff in it. And I mean, people would come from everywhere, and obviously to do a tour of the factory as well, especially in the summertime, school tours and that kind of thing, and we had a bit of fun with that too.
How do you mean?
The girl that used to work beside me, Lorraine, she used to bring in a whoopee cushion, and when all the people would be standing around, and she'd, yourself. It was hard for us to keep a straight face because we knew what was happening, but the face on the visitors was good. And Lorraine was a devil. But and I remember one time it was coming up to either summer holidays or Christmas, and this non-alcohol beer had come in, and we said, let's do this. So we bought some of that, and we had it blatantly in the bottle on our benches, and the staff and Japanese, etc., would have to walk by us to go to the canteen, and we'd have it sitting there and we'd be walking away. But they never said anything. So I don't know. I mean, some years, yes, everybody had a bit of something when the holidays came, and because there wasn't much work done the day of the holidays, like. But yeah, we'd have a bottle of something somewhere.
So the summer holidays, the last day, is it? That's what you mean?
The last day of to get our summer holidays, when we were getting them, starting them. And then everyone would meet up somewhere uptown that night. And you know that the publicans are saying, oh Jesus, the pottery are on holidays. It'll be everywhere, Or wood fabs on holidays, or, whichever factory were breaking up for the summer.
When did you go for your holidays here?
Pardon?
When were the holidays?
The last week in July, the first 2 weeks in August.
So you'd be off for 3 weeks?
We had 3 weeks in the summer, and it worked up. We used to get just a week at Christmas, and then we used to walk in 15 minutes a day. I think it was an hour a week. We worked extra by 15 minutes, and then we got 2 weeks at Christmas. So instead of finishing at 4:30, we used to finish at 4:45 for 4 days.
That was good.
It was, yeah, and you didn't notice it, and it was saved. It was kept back. The money, the extra money, was kept back, so you were given your holiday money then.
And was it Noritaki here when you started first?
No, God, no. Artaki came much later.
And did you notice a change when they came? Or did they introduce? Someone said someone told me last week, said that they had a kind of a uniform as such, or kind of an overalls.
I suppose it would have been like they had. You could tell a department by what they were wearing. You know, we didn't have now uniforms, but because of the water and working with water all day, we did wear a plastic apron. Well, not everybody, it was just our own idea, it wasn't brought in. We'd bring our own, you know, because you'd be saturated otherwise, or covered in the kind of glue off the transfers, you know. So we had to have something. But yeah, a lot of people wore coverings around the whole place, you know. Some would have been supplied, some weren't.
Was it cold during the winter?
Oh God, yeah. we had skylights and that all along the whole decorating. In the summer, it was hell with the heat, but they used to whitewash the windows over us in the summertime. And in the winter, sometimes we'd have to have those big, huge gas blow heaters, one at each end of the department. It was so cold in it, yeah.
So did whitewash the windows to stop the light getting in?
Stop the heat, yeah,
Heat
the sun.
Sun getting in.
Yeah, we did have summers then. Yeah, and it would be very, very warm.
And you know, when you'd finish work, say on a summer's day like today, did you just go down to the beach, or did you just do anything at all? Or
Yes, we would have done that. Also at lunchtime, because in the beginning we got an hour for lunch. So you had an hour to either go home, go to the beach, whichever you liked, you know. And then it went to the half hour.
and was your home place far away from here?
Not at all, it was only at the top of this road. Very handy.
You'd
Yeah.
walk to it.
Oh yeah.
Did you end up, when you got your first few wage packets, did you buy anything in particular? Did you buy a bike, or was there anything you were after?
I remember the first record I ever bought. It was Joe Dolan. Teresa was the name of it. Yeah, that was the first thing I bought. Couldn't wait. Because my mother had bought us a record player, which are all coming back now for Christmas, so between us, so the two of us used that, yeah.
Must have been hard on her after losing her husband so young.
Yeah, it was, yeah. It was.
And when did you marry?
1990.
And did you give up work then?
No, continued until it went. That kind of thing, having to give up work when you were married, had phased out by then, you know. So we just carried on, you know. Yeah.
And the last couple of years, was there writing on the wall for you?
Not openly. It was just a feeling, and I can't even explain it. There was just something in the air, you know, an atmosphere. And I remember our boss coming up, and he said, everybody's to meet in the canteen. There's a meeting. And the girl that worked across from me looked at me and she said, "Oh, what's going on?" And I just said, "We're gone." I don't know why. I really don't know why. It was just a feeling. And when we went down, the head Japanese guy announced that we were closing. And I don't know how it was just a feeling I had. But I knew we were gone. But it took some time, obviously, for all that to happen. But he was just making us aware that it was winding down. So we just kind of worked on whatever was left, you know. Some departments might have shut before others, you know. So we would have been probably one of the last.
And when was that? Was that a couple of weeks or months before?
It was a while before. It was a while before. Yeah. I can't actually remember exactly. No, can't remember exactly. But I know we still came down at for 8 every morning to finish up. Yeah. Sad day when it went, you know. And of course RTE were down. At that time I think Mary Harney was lucky she wasn't down here. So she would have been mauled. But yeah, yeah.
What month did it close?
I actually can't remember, Michael. I actually can't remember.
Can you remember the last day?
I can remember the last day, yeah. There was very little, if any, work done. You know, we were just cleaning out our places, you know, our workplace and stuff like that. That's really all, you know.
And you said you made a set for yourselves, did you?
Well, not a set. There was few pieces, like a lasagna dish or what, you know, a coffee pot or a teapot, whichever. Just a couple of pieces people did, you know. And it was just putting the pattern you liked on it that maybe didn't normally go on them, you know. That's all it was.
So you had a choice of a different pattern.
You could put what you wanted on it, you know.
What did you put on yours?
I think it may have been Summer Estate and yeah, I think it was Summer Estate actually. Yeah.
Do you still have those pieces?
Yeah, I do somewhere. I wouldn't part with them. Yeah.
And here we are now sitting at what's left of it.
That's left of it, the flower bed. Yeah. And I can still visualize inside, you know, where we'd go in here through the gates, take a right through double doors, up a little corridor and into the decorating, and then the clocking in clock was just as you can come in. Yeah. 309 was my clock number. Still remember it. Gosh. Yeah. Good times. Good times.